Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to $118,000 Bitcoin. We said on Wednesday, are we going to hit 115,000 by the weekend? It's Friday, we're at 118,000, and we have done it. I'm running a poll today with a very simple question. Should I be bullish or bearish? Every single person so far has said that I need to be bullish. I'm not going to be bullish, and I'm not going to be bearish when I fix my microphone. I am going to be the same person I was when we were at 76,000 as I am when we're at 118,000, because this job, this journey, this destination that we're going to isn't over yet. We have a long way to go. The alt season could be very well upon us. If you're an OG, you will have heard what I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, which is an all-time high by the end of June. And I was wrong last time, and I was wrong this time by roughly 2 weeks. I think that we are entering the euphoric phase in Bitcoin. That doesn't mean it's going to keep going up forever. It's the euphoric phase. We have the blow off top. We need that before we get the alt season. Ethereum's gone above $3,000. That's a positive sign. We don't even have the ETH staking for the ETFs yet. So everything looks rosy in the garden. Okay? There are no storm clouds on the horizon. I'm not going to sit here and be super bearish, but I think we need to go and have a look at the charts and have a proper chat. I'm actually going to look at the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana charts today. To kind of show you where we are. Bitcoin is obviously at all-time highs, but Solana and Ethereum have got an awful lot of work to do to get anywhere near their all-time highs. Ethereum's all-time high is over 4,000. Solana isn't even at $200 yet, so there's a lot of work to do. Okay, we've put the foundations in. Okay, we haven't even started fitting the double glazing. We've not put the crazy paving down, and we haven't put the LED lights in. Okay, so I'm neither bearish nor bullish. Give me 1 second. That's probably until we break 125,000 while we're on the stream, and then that might change my opinion. So what we're going to talk about today, then, we're going to have a look at some charts. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at real-world assets. We're going to look at RWA.XYZ, which I've brought up once before, but I want to show it you because I think you can go and do your research on there as well. I think it's a good place for you to go and find out what's happening in that niche. We're going to look at the BNB burn. We're going to look at USDF. USDF. We're also going to look at Metaverse, and we're going to look at Pengu if we get anywhere near that. Because, of course, when we're at all-time highs, there is no point in trying to run a normal show. We will just run a nice, quiet show. Now then, before we get into the X-Files, I suppose we're going to have a look at the charts, shouldn't we? I suppose you're all going to want to gloat at how much your Bitcoin is now worth, how much your Ethereum is now worth, and who can blame you? Who can blame you at all? Right. Let's bring this up. There we go. Switch over. And there we are. Bitcoin coming in at $118,000. We are up 6%. 6% in 24 hours. Ethereum has broken $3,000. I didn't expect that without the ETF, but I didn't expect $118,000 so quickly. I wanted $114,000. But Bitcoin always goes higher and always goes lower than you predict. XRP is coming in above $2.50, almost $2.60. I think we're going to see some news about XRP in the near future. I think it's been front run. I think the ETFs are likely to be approved in the next few weeks, and somebody knows. BNB, we're going to talk about that today. That's approaching $700. Again, for BNB in this bull run, I know there's a lot of people on Binance that watch this. I'm not expecting a $2,500 BNB. I think we'll be lucky to break $1,000, maybe $1,500. So temper your expectations, but BNB is a long-term hold. After the bull run is over, Maybe you've taken some profits. BNB should be something that you look at. It's linked to the biggest exchange in the world. There is a massive burn that goes on every 3 months, and it holds its value. The BNB chain is massively popular as well. Solana, 164. Tron, we don't talk about Tron. Cardano, 71 cents. That's up 12.5%. Again, some of these coins are moving faster and further than Bitcoin, and others are not. And you need to pay attention to that. Which coins are underperforming Bitcoin right now, and which coins are overperforming Bitcoin right now? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Right then, what else is happening? Hyperliquid is up to $46. I still don't think it's going to catch Cardano. $46, incredible price. It was $29 not many months ago. It was $20 not many months ago before that. It's had a great run. But like Ton, is it going to fall away? Sui, everybody was telling you Sui was going to go to $500 or whatever ridiculous price action they got to. I wanted $5 sooner rather than later. That also fell away. Where did Ton fall to? Look at Ton down there. Ton was in the top 10 a few months ago. These coins that have a huge run towards the top 10, they have to fade after a while. They can't keep going. Now, maybe Hyperliquid, maybe that breaks the trend. Maybe it does, because somebody somewhere has to break the trend at some point. Maybe it's Sui, maybe it's Hyperliquid. Chainlink back over $15. This is going to be a glorious 24 hours. 26% on Say, 25% on Athena, Story, WorldCoin, 4, Maple Finance back at 55.5 cents. Every single person in Telegram and on Twitter that I have been talking to about Maple Finance told you to buy at 44 and 49 cents. This time yesterday, it wicked to 49 cents. It's not going down. It's simply having a profit take. That's what it's done. I said a 10 to 20% correction was coming. I told you on the 30th of June. That's what, 10, 11 days ago. I told you where the price was going to go. I follow this very closely. We're back at 55.5 cents. It's up 15%. Arbitrum is up. That chain looks like it's got new life. There's a lot more DeFi coming to Arbitrum. Optimism is starting to do well. These will also do well because they are layer 2s associated with Ethereum. Pepe is up. Injective. We have a glorious, glorious list of how many coins there. 22 coins up 10% in 24 hours. And then another raft of coins all up over 5%. More than 50 or 60 coins. It's a good day. But remember, one swallow does not make a summer. We have a long way to go. Nothing is really near its all-time highs apart from newer coins like Hype. So just bear that in mind. Again, no losers. Everything is doing incredibly well. So what I would do today if I were you lot, I would celebrate. I would be happy. I would enjoy the day. When Bitcoin has these kinds of runs, you need to appreciate the good times and remember the bad times. How did you feel when we're in the maelstrom of the tariff wars and everybody was telling you that we were going down and it was over and the global economy was going to be crashed by Trump? Do you remember those days? Because they weren't that long ago. Remember who told you everything was going to be fine? I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a magician. I just look at what has gone before. And what went before all points to Bitcoin going up over the next, well, over 2025. So this isn't anything unusual. It went higher than I wanted. Great. This pretty much sums up what's happened in the last 24 hours really, really well. I found this today. Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high. $1.25 billion worth of shorts have been liquidated. Bitcoin trading volume is up 88%. ETH broke $3,000. The largest single liquidation was $88 million. 270,000 traders have been liquidated. And Tron, which I still don't see, generated $2.1 million in fees. I think that one was thrown in there at the end just to kind of confuse people. But that's where we are. That is where we are. And there is the green candle. Now, what is nice to see? People like Eric Balchunas and the men in suits that have never seen this stuff before. They don't know what God candles are. And they are beautiful. And they are a thing of beauty. And seeing them in an altcoin, seeing them in SEI or SUI or Arbitrum, yeah. When you see a Bitcoin God candle, it is one of the greatest things that man has ever created. Okay, that chart that shows the God candle is beautiful, and it is something which is a release of all of that pent up pressure. Remember, Bitcoin bores you to death, the markets bore you to death, there's nothing to do for months on end, and then one day we will be at $118,000. And you will see people telling you all kinds of things, but Bitcoin tells you what Bitcoin wants to do. Maybe now we tread sideways for the next 3 months, as I've been saying. Maybe we don't. Maybe market structure is temporarily broken. Maybe we do get the rate cuts, even though there's a 95% chance of no rate cut this month. Maybe we see it in September. We're at 118,000 with no rate cuts. It's glorious. This is a beautiful, beautiful scenario for Bitcoin. It's come out. The clouds have parted and the sun is shining. Now, President Trump is calling for something that's not going to happen, but that doesn't mean he can't ask for it. He's calling for a 3% basis point interest rate cut. That would be the biggest in history. 3 times larger than the one in 2020 during the, I think it was during the pandemic, wasn't it? Or just before the pandemic. So what happens if the Fed does this? Let's explain. We don't need to go into that. We're not going to see that kind of rate cut. I don't know how much longer Powell can hold off. And I think if we get to the end of the year with a 0.5% rate cut, I think he's not doing his job. And even I'm going to start siding with everybody calling for his head. Because I just don't see why, or what does he want from the market to cut rates? What does he want? 3 months ago, I was on his side. 2 months ago, I'm thinking we're going to get a rate cut in June. We're now in July with no rate cut on the horizon. Inflation is 1.7%. They want a 2% inflation rate. It's 1.7. What more does this man want? It's starting to look incredibly political. That's all I'm saying. Now then, we talk an awful lot about Bitcoin treasuries. They are the thing. We don't talk about them that much. We do throw them in if they're big, but this is the next one. This is ETH treasuries. They have bought only 1,800 ETH worth $5 million, but it's a $100 million ETH treasury strategy. We're seeing this for Solana. We're seeing this for Ethereum. We're going to see it for BNB. You're probably in the future, when some more of the coins go above 100 billion in market cap, when they become a little bit more stable, you're going to start to see some of these treasury firms containing multiple assets. Maybe you're going to see a company hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Maybe BNB, Solana, and Crow. Maybe. But this is the future. Now, don't think for 1 minute they're going out and buying all of these assets. What they're doing with their treasury is they have funds, they have assets, which they basically want to retain the value of. Elon Musk said it brilliantly a few years ago. They have 1 billion euros sitting in Europe in cash, and they have to pay the bank 1% a year. They have to pay the bank 1% a year. So 10 million euro a year goes to the bank for what? So not only is there inflation eating away at his treasury in Europe, but also the bank is taking a cut as well. Now, again, explain to me how a bank should take 1% of your assets every year just because they're a bank. So putting your, Elon Musk puts 50% of his treasury into Bitcoin. Over 10 years, it will go up in value. If he puts 50% of his treasury into the euro over the next 10 years, it will probably lose 20% of its value, which is the clever thing to do. So when you see treasuries doing this kind of move, it's not necessarily raising money to do this, it's converting its fiat into crypto. And this is the great switcheroo, where people are moving from assets which are being debased in value to assets which are appreciating in value. Remember, nobody can print Bitcoin. Nobody can print Bitcoin. Ursula von der Leyen can print the euro. Trump, the Fed, Powell can print the dollar. I don't know what, Rachel Reeves and the Bank of England can print the pound. So if they can just print money, why would you want to hold an asset that can be printed and make your money worth less? Why don't you hold an asset that nobody can print and you can hold that you know will go up in value, which is Bitcoin? Now then, I don't care what is said about Jupiter. I don't care about the FUD. You're all idiots. Not watching, of course, you are not idiots, but the people fudding Jupiter are idiots. Look at the volume going through Jupiter. Look at the volume going through everybody else. Look at the market cap and value of Jupiter. And then look at 1inch, OKX, Kyber, and everybody else. And then compare Jupiter to some of the other dexes as well. People are fading Jupiter from a personal, subjective point of view, because Jupiter hasn't done what they wanted Jupiter to do. It makes money. It makes a lot of money. And it is buying its own token every single day. And it's a little bit like Bitcoin in the fact that these ETFs are going to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy. And then one day the price is going to snap. And maybe that day is today. Maybe that day is today. Jupiter's price will snap to the upside. The only thing to watch out for is a signal that this volume drops. They have done $700 million of volume in one day. $700 million in one day. And people are saying that this company is finished. Now, I have no association whatsoever with Jupiter. I have made videos about them and I got the airdrop. That's it. But for people to fade a project, I am not going to stand by and let that be bad-mouthed. It's absolutely ridiculous. Remember, if you're new here, number 1, subscribe. And number 2, say hello in chat. Chat is always super quiet. And a lot of people tell me that's because you're listening to what I have to say. Fine. Good morning, Venkat, and thank you for saying hello. I want people to interact in this stream. Otherwise, I am sitting here talking to a camera. I've minimized that by accident. Talking to a camera, and I don't know if you agree or you disagree. Occasionally, from time to time, it would be nice to know. Now, I'm going to keep this for when Tariq logs in, because I think Tariq is a Muslim. So I'm going to keep this for Tariq. But basically, Binance has introduced a Sharia earn halal rewards made simple, stake BNB, ETH and Sol in alignment with Islamic principles, transparent, ethical and available now on Binance. And I'm going to cover that when Tariq comes in and talk about it a little bit. Now, this is the most important thing above all else. Where is Bitcoin going to go to? And not only where is Bitcoin going to go to, where are Solana and ETH going to go to? Because they're the next ones. Now, Bullish Bull has said that he wants me to smile. There's a smile. Okay? I am the Jack D of crypto. Okay? Jack D, and me, I think, were probably born under the same alignment of stars. That's all I will say. Now, we rattled around beneath this line from May. Not that long ago. 6 weeks ago. And now, I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, there have been times in the past where Bitcoin has made this move. And they are, there's another one there. They are indeed God candles. They're a big move. They're a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 move. Okay, they are big moves. But look at how Bitcoin moves. It does go up in a straight line, and then it kind of fades, and then it comes back down. It does go up, and then it fades, and it comes back down. Okay? So, do I think this is the last leg up of where we are going right now? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I think what we're going to do is either top out now and basically replicate that and do that and maybe come down, which is what I kind of explained to the OGs in the video I made today. I've put an OG video up, by the way. So Kishan, who else is Danny? Trying to think of who else comments on it as well. Packer, I think, is an OG as well. So if you're an OG, make sure to go and check that out. I think we've got two options. We go a little bit higher towards this range and then move sideways, or we move sideways from here. One of the two. But I think we're going to be moving sideways. And then the next instigation of a move up, I think, will be a rate cut. Now, from what I remember, July, we have a decision. Then we don't have one in August. And then we have one in September, middle of September. So what we could do is sidle sideways until September and then start moving up. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I've been telling the OGs for months, probably since the start of the year. We will get a leg up in November. Now, that line here that you can see, that is my predicted end of the bull run. Now, there's a 40% chance that that is not the end of the bull run. There is a good chance that we continue into next year. But we said this in 2021 and we said this in 2017. And around about here, when Bitcoin is up maybe about 130, people are going to be saying, right, next year we're going to be at $500,000. We're just going to keep going up in a straight line. And then what has traditionally happened, and that's the key word, is we've done this. And the question is, with Bitcoin's market cap and supply shock and everything else, and let's say we go to 150,000, are we going to drop below 100,000, which is a 33% drop? Are we going to do that? Or could the bear market get us? So if we do this, or if we do this, and we get to 150,000, what if the bear market only takes us down to this level here, which is kind of where we've been? Because we talk about a 60% correction in Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin went from 69,000 to, what did it go down to? 18,000, something like that. So it lost a big chunk in the last bear market. I don't see a $50,000 Bitcoin. I don't see a $60,000 Bitcoin. Maybe I say a $90,000 Bitcoin. But because everything's so delayed, because we've not had the rate cuts, because we've not had Trumponomics kick in, because we're kind of delayed, my predictions are 2 weeks out. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy to be 2 weeks out. I said all-time highs by the end of June. 11th of July, new all-time high. I'm 11 days out. 10 days because it happened yesterday. 10 days out. What if I'm really wrong on November? What if I am absolutely really wrong? And maybe what happens is we get a rate cut in September, and then maybe we get one in November as well. Or maybe we get September, October, and November. They've said 2 rate cuts. They might go with 2. They might go with 3. But the rate cuts are coming in this last period here. So we've got the rate cuts here. We've also got the Solana and XRP ETFs happening here. We've also got the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve happening here. Now, my conservative estimate is this. This is where I think we go. This zone here, which is 130 to 150,000. Now, from where we are now, we are, 6% away? 7% away from me getting to the bottom of my range for the end of this bull run. But we've got interest rates. We've got the ETFs, the new ETFs going live. And we've got the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And we haven't got all of that. We haven't got any of that. And we're at 118,000. So I'm going to be probably really wrong to the downside. And maybe we go to 150. Now, 150 from here is a 20% move, which again is probably realistic. If you go back, probably have to go to a different time frame on this. If we go back over here to what happened 4 years ago, you'll see that we did this. Okay? And we had a top here in April, which was at the time, 63,000. And then everybody held on for an ever and a day to get to 69,000. Now, that was a 10% move, but you had to wait an extra 7 months for that 6% move. And lots of people were saying, oh, you should have sold, you should have sold your Bitcoin in the April time and all this kind of things. And you know what? If we did that again, for example, I do that every time. Okay. So let's say we do that again. And let's say we do that. Then that's going to bring us in about 132,000. Is that right? 131,000. So maybe if we follow what we did last year, then we do this. That's what we do. But again, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And the rhyme is 18 months after all-time high, you hit a new 18 months after the halving, you hit a new all-time high. That takes us to October, November this year. So there's going to be a new all-time high. It's how high we go and then how high we fall, how far we fall down. I don't know where we go. I'm still sticking to 130 to 150,000. And then what I will do, probably around October time, is reassess where we are. Okay? I do not have a team of quant experts sitting behind me in this room analysing the charts. It's me and the Oracle. Of course, the Oracle. And the Oracle has lots of different targets. I think he's got 121, he's got 127, he's got 141. And I think he's got then 150. So he's got a couple of targets on there. A couple of them match up with what I've got. But we're likely to be wrong. But I do think it's foolish to sit there and say that we're just going to go up and to the right. We've never done that in the history. So this will overheat and we will cool down. Maybe not today. Maybe Saturday, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. We will cool down. And then we will fall down a little bit, maybe back to 112, maybe 110, maybe 108 again, okay? But we will fall down. It's just the pattern that we have. Now, Ethereum is an interesting child. Let's call it that. It's an interesting child. What are we on? We're on the 8 hour. Let's go to the daily. Now, why is Ethereum interesting? Well, first of all, back here, this was March last year, $4,000. December, actually, let's go a bit forward. End of December, $4,000. Bitcoin at $118,000. Highest Bitcoin has ever been. Ethereum, $3,000. So Ethereum has a lot of work to do. So this is what I was saying before when Bullish Bull said, is Mike going to have a smile on his face today? No, I do not, because we've got work to do, okay? The cement has set, it's in place. We now need to start building towards our final forever home. And Ethereum is acting beautifully. We fell down under the bull market support band. We came down here. What was that? That was the end of the tariff wars when Bitcoin was also down. Now then, what did Ethereum do? It found the top of the bull market support band. It then wicked to the bottom of the bull market support band. And what has it done? It has bounced. Ethereum has been FUDed for months. I have said over those months that I believe this FUD to have been fed by institutions. Okay? They have fed the FUD. And why have they fed the FUD? To keep the price down and suppress it. Yesterday, the ETFs almost bought more Ethereum than Bitcoin. Okay? I'll say that again. Yesterday, BlackRock and the teams bought nearly as much Ethereum as Bitcoin. And we are talking about a $3,000 Ethereum. So where is Ethereum going to go? It's going to go higher. We are at $3,000 and we do not have ETH staking yet. My prediction was with ETH staking, we'd go above 3,000 and go to between $3,000 and $3,500. We're at $3,000 already. So my prediction is likely to be in this zone here, which is about 3.5 to 3.8. So we're going to go up here. Again, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Over the next few weeks, we're going to go up here. If institutional demand for Ethereum is this high now, when we get the staking, it's just going to go a little bit higher. And maybe they front run it. Maybe they have bought the Ethereum that they want, maybe. But now we're seeing treasury strategies with Ethereum at the core. Ethereum is the chosen one. I've said this to you many, many times. TradFi is going to Ethereum. Visa, MasterCard, Chainlink, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, all of them are going to Ethereum. Real world assets, which we're going to look at shortly, Ethereum. And yet, you have people down here making memes about Ethereum being $2,000 on this day over the last 8 years. It's going higher. Maybe it changes in the future. Maybe 3 or 4 years' time, TradFi will go, you know what, we picked Ethereum, that was the wrong call, we should have gone with Solana. Maybe. Today, right now, if you are a serious TradFi company, you go to Ethereum. Then, maybe you expand to Arbitrum. Cheaper, faster, maybe you build your DEX on Arbitrum. Maybe you build your own layer 2 on Ethereum using Optimism. But that's the options that you've got open to you. So for me, Ethereum is going to go higher. I'm not going to sit here and say $10,000, $20,000. I do think we could wick to $10,000, but we're not going to go above it today or tomorrow. I think if we can get to $3,500 to $4,000, I think we should be happy. And as you can tell by my face, I am absolutely delighted with the performance of ETH. Next is the DGen child. Good morning, good morning. I hope you are well. Let's have a little look. Just checking on my stats. Right, this is Ethereum. Sorry, this is Solana. Now, very similar to Ethereum. Let's wait for the chart to load. Now, very similar to Ethereum, we had a couple of downward actions. We had this, which was the collapse during the tariff war. What did I tell you to do down here What were the words that came out of my mouth? Buy Solana between $100 and $110 and you have got a bargain. They were my words, which I told you 3 months ago. 3 months ago. That's a good price. Get it down there. Had you done that, you would be sitting at 60% profit on Solana. That's not a bad return for 3 months. That's 20% a month. Now, we came up, and what did we do? We struggled. Unlike Ethereum, we did bounce a little bit, but then we started to fall below the bull market support band. Many reasons for this. I think the biggest reason is the money was going into Ethereum and not Solana, because Ethereum is the second biggest ETF. I think the institutional people were buying Ethereum knowing that ETH staking was coming. So I think Solana suffered. There's only probably 3 coins outside of Bitcoin at the minute that institutions are looking at. Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. Why? Because Solana and XRP are going to get ETFs next. Now, we need them soon. We might not get them soon. We might get them in September or October. That will be more fuel on the bonfire of the all-time highs. Now, what it has in common is it's broken above the bull market support band. So we've got loads of levels to look at. The first thing we need to do is get to $184, $185. We might not have enough gas in this at the moment to do that. But it all depends. You know, one thing we haven't looked at, which we're going to look at now. I'm not going to talk any more about Solana because I think this is the most important one. This is Bitcoin dominance. And Bitcoin dominance has actually fallen for 2 weeks. We've gone from 66%, which I said could be a top. We're now at 64.75%. We've fallen just so much. Now, when this happened last time, we wicked down to almost the Bitcoin dominance bull market support band. That's currently coming in at 63.5%. If we see this kind of action, do you know what happens to alts? Alts do that. So if we see another breakdown, so let's say we lose another 1% from the Bitcoin dominance, we're going to see a mini pump for alts, and alts are going to go up. If you asked me today, what are we going to do? I would say we are going to get Bitcoin going to wherever it wants to go to, and then we're going to get a mini alt season, a summer alt season. Now, according to my chart, we are breaking up towards 119,000. I must be using a delayed chart because I'm showing 118,167, but apparently we're going towards 119,000. Fantastic. So for me, short-term targets, 3,500 for Ethereum, probably $184 for Solana, and I think we need to see now where Bitcoin wants to end up. Maybe Bitcoin does end up at 120,000 and then bounces off that. Remember, we talk a lot on here about psychology as well, and the psychology is that there are certain numbers which will trigger FOMO. And those numbers are so obvious that you should know them anyway. 50,000, 100,000, 120, 125, 150, 200,000. They are all numbers which trigger an emotion. If I said to you at 89,000, let's say Bitcoin was at 90,000. Exactly, Kishan. So let me point something out. Okay. If I say to you, Bitcoin is going to go from 90 to 100,000, in your head, that is a bigger move than 120 to 130,000. That's a bigger move in your head. Why do people sell you things for $99.99. Why don't they sell it for $100? Because psychologically, $99.99 is a smaller number. Going to $120 or $125,000 is psychologically harder right now than Bitcoin going from 131 to 134. They are harder targets because charts are based on nature. We use the Fibonacci retracement tools, okay, which is based on the Fibonacci. If you've never read into it, it's fascinating. Humans, nature, the stars, everything is connected. And I'm not going to go hippie. I'm not going to start shaking incense around. But patterns exist everywhere you look. Nature, football results, chart patterns. And when you see those numbers, there is a strand of DNA in your body that makes you realize that that's a bigger number. So when the Oracle looks at it and uses his proper analysis, he will find where those fib levels are. He will find where those numbers are based on lots of different things. And as Kishan said, Bitcoin can only predict itself. No one else can predict Bitcoin. And if we could predict Bitcoin, we would be a lot richer. So let's move on very quickly then. Bitcoin price has a new all-time high. Where is it headed next? Let's look at some of these fictitious targets according to the experts. So this is so old, it's still at 112,000. We're now at 119,000. Open interest signals strength behind the Bitcoin price move. Remember, we told you about the open interest on XRP. That's gone up from 220 to whatever now, 255. So open interest is an important factor. Open interest on Bitcoin surged to 1.1 billion just before the flush took place. Forget the flush. The liquidation event cleared over leveraged long positions. Now, what happens in crypto, trading, whatever it might be, if you've got an over leveraged market, it's not healthy in the long run. So what tends to happen is we might go to 120,000 today, completely liquidate all of the shorts. All the shorts are dead. The bears are dead. And then what happens? The longs go long, 130. But their liquidation levels might be $114,000 or $115,000. So where do you think Bitcoin is going to be brought to liquidate the longs? Where is the profit in the market? The profit in the market is to bring the price down to 115,000. So when you see these huge spikes, they are followed by some downward wicks and some sideways action. That's the shorts and the longs both being taken out. And then we have a healthy market for a while. And then Bitcoin moves. Maybe Bitcoin drops to the downside. And then you'll see cascading liquidations to the downside, as we've seen with the tariff news that came out. But now is the time when the longs are going to need to be restrained. There's no point in putting a long on Bitcoin at 119,000. I certainly wouldn't be doing that. I don't care if we go to 120, 125. Now is not the time to long Bitcoin. I would not be shorting or longing Bitcoin in price discovery. I do think we will correct to the downside, 5%, 6%, certainly. And then who knows? Who knows? If we get a rate cut from the Fed, it's going to be legendary, okay? When we start to see the tap being turned on of money printing, when we see those rate cuts, this will go much higher. Not 500,000 or 200,000, but another 5 or 10% will happen. It's just the way the mindset of people turns bullish, which will push it higher. But then, conversely, there's even more longs to liquidate, and there we could get a lot of volatility. So I know Kishan loves leverage in chat. I know that. But there are days where I don't use leverage. As he knows, I don't like leverage on the rate decision days from the Fed. I don't think that's a good day because they go up and they come down and everybody gets liquidated. Price discovery. If you're going to do something, you short Bitcoin. And what's going to happen there is everybody shorts Bitcoin and the price goes higher. That's the problem. I guarantee you now, James Wynn got liquidated by shorting Bitcoin yesterday. He put a 40x short on Bitcoin. He's been liquidated. Everyone, Capo, liquidated. They've all been liquidated. The only people who haven't been liquidated so far are the permabulls. So Crypto, Cryptos Are Us, the ones that constantly just talk about up, 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 up. They will have made money today, and good money. Jason Casper, good money. CryptoFace, good money. They've all made lots of money because they're all more perma-bullish than perma-bearish. And the shorts, crushed. But now it's time maybe for the longs to be crushed. So we've seen this open interest. This was signaling this move. The next massive liquidation or flush window sits at 120,000. We're now at 119,000. Where do you think we're going to go next? If there is liquidation at 120,000, we're going to 120,000. It is not difficult to follow that. There was a really interesting calculation that I saw from somebody yesterday. And he was basically talking about he buys Bitcoin on every 30% correction and sells at the next all-time high. That's all he does. So if Bitcoin went to a new all-time high in January, he sold. He then waited for the 30% correction, which would have been about 78,000, where he would have bought. And now we're at 119,000. He's going to sell again. And his strategy, I think, is pretty sound. I think it's pretty sound. Going to all-time highs and selling and then buying back the 30% dip is absolutely simplistic and accurate, because in every bull run there are 6 to 7 30% corrections. We've already seen 5. I think we're going to get one more between now and October or November. But if we go to 120,000 and we do a 30% correction, that brings us below 100,000. and don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe there is another conflict, who knows. Tokenized securities are still securities, says Hester Peirce. Now, something I want to make very clear to you. Tariq is here. I will go through the Muslim thing in a second. One thing I want to make very clear here. Trump is all about deregulation, removing regulation from the market and allowing the market to flow in a frictionless manner. When you see Hester Peirce and the ilk talking about this kind of stuff, securities are still securities, she is maintaining a certain level of control over the market. I say this because tokenizing a stock or creating a synthetic version of a stock and put it on the blockchain, if the value of that is tied directly to that stock, then it should have the same rules applied to it. And tokenizing securities, so Tesla stock, Google stock, or Meta stock, Alphabet stock, whatever it might be, tokenizing them still means that they are a security and still fall under the securities laws. And I am 100% behind that. You cannot have a Wild West. You need regulation. I know it sounds terrible. You've got KYC, you've got AML. You know, I get that. I understand. But if you don't have it, you are the ones that are going to be hurt. Because if something isn't regulated, guess what? It's not insured by your financial services authority. Crypto presently isn't under the FCA in the UK or the FSC in America. So I think in America, if there is a bank collapse, I think you're insured for $250,000. You'll get that money back. In the UK, I think it's £150,000 or something like that. You're not if crypto. If your exchange, if Binance disappears tomorrow and takes all your money, you've got no recourse. That's through lack of regulation. You need to be regulated because there needs to be safeguards in place. And I don't care how degen people are about Bitcoin, you have to protect the vulnerable. And Hester Peirce is stating an undeniable fact. We know what people want, okay? We want this to happen. But put it this way, let's say that we tokenize all American stocks. And let's say that Russia and Russian individuals are not allowed to buy American stocks because of what's going on in the conflict, and you tokenize them, and then you put them all on a DEX like Jupiter and call it X Tesla and X Meta, and you're a Russian, so you come along and you buy $100 million worth of X Tesla. Well, you own $100 million of the underlying stock, and you're not allowed to because you're Russian. But at the minute, you could easily do it by creating a wallet, and I'm obviously having a VPN. But the point of the matter is, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm telling you how wrong it is. It's wrong to be able to do that. You have to have control, or chaos ensues. There is a balance between chaos and order. And at the minute, with Trump in power, it is swinging towards chaos, and it has to be controlled. Now, Hester Peirce is pro-crypto, but being pro-crypto is not being pro-deregulation. And that is what she is saying here. We don't need to go into it. I wanted her to become the head of the SEC, and she didn't get the job. I think one of Trump's friends got the job. She has warned tokenized stock issuers to follow securities law. They urged investors to consider crypto stocks or L1 tokens like ETH, SOL, XRP, Link to gain exposure to the projected tokenized market. Exactly. I totally agree with this. And I think as powerful as blockchain tech is, it does not have magical abilities to transform the nature of the underlying asset. Tokenized securities are still tokenized securities. That's what I totally agree with it. I think one of the most important things to understand is just because something can be done doesn't mean it should be done. And if you've never watched Oppenheimer, I'd suggest watching Oppenheimer. There are many things in this world that can be done, and there are many things in history that were legal, but morally were wrong. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's morally right. And just because it's on the blockchain doesn't mean it's morally right either. You need to have recourse, you need to have some level of control, and I think you need to have a balance. And I think the EU have gone the wrong way with control, which is why their economy suffers, because they've overregulated. I think the UK is heading that way, and America is heading in the opposite direction, to deregulation. When you deregulate an overregulated market, you have a boom. And that's what the UK needs at the minute. Rachel Reeves is not mentally capable of being the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And I was thinking about this the other day. I don't talk about UK politics a lot because it's got nothing to do with crypto, yes. But when you have people who are clearly incapable, they should not be in charge of making decisions. And somehow, both the Tories and Labour have got themselves into a position of having lower capability people in positions of power. David Lammy is another example. And they shouldn't have that decision-making power because they will destroy the market. And that's the issue. Trump's come in. The people that Trump's brought in aren't infallible, but they are deregulating. I think we need to deregulate the market because it's stifling growth in the UK, stifling growth certainly in Europe, and I think America are going to get it right. So if America gets it right, where is the money going to go? It's going to go to Dubai and it's going to go to America. And who will suffer? The UK and the EU. They will lose out. Why do you want to operate in an overly regulated market? You don't. It's utter nonsense. Now, this is something which leads on from the article. I've tried to kind of piece them together today. Good morning, Solo Sky. Oh, Tariq. That was what I was going to mention. I don't know if it's actually applicable to you, Tariq, but I will show it you anyway, because I think you mentioned in passing one day, and I'm sure you're aware of this, and I apologise if I brought this up and you don't want me to bring it up, but there are new services available through Binance, which may or may not, you may or may not have been told about. And that is that there is now a way to ethically earn from BNB, ETH, and Sol. And it's on Binance. Of course, we stream on Binance as well. So I don't know how you find out about this, but there is a link. I'm sure I can drop it into Telegram later on if you want to go and have a look at it. If you've not heard about it, it's there. I know you rush in on a Friday to get to the stream. So I wanted to hold on to this so you knew. I think Bitcoin is still breaking up, by the way, which is great. Right then, real world assets. One thing to understand about real world assets is that at some point they're going to detach from the rest of crypto because the stock or share or token price of these assets is totally irrelevant to the price of Bitcoin. So Maple Finance, Ondo, these assets are connected to real world collateral, real world projects, and they generate their revenue from this. So there shouldn't ever be a reason if Bitcoin goes down 5% that Ondo or Maple goes down 5%. The reason it should go down is because they are underperforming. The reason it should go up is because they are hitting their milestones. So real world assets, this website is called rwa.xyz. I have absolutely no relationship with this website. I am showing you because I think it's something you should go and have a look at. It's very simple to understand. I wish there was a dark mode because it's really bright. One of the issues I have when I stream is not only have I got the light of the camera, the light of the halo, I have this white screen shining on me, and it is blinding to have. It's like looking into a torch when I'm looking at these websites because it's just so bright. But anyway, beside the point, on the left-hand side, you will see lots of different breakdowns of all of the different real-world asset markets, and some of them are pretty straightforward. You have your stablecoin market, so it shows you the breakdown of the stablecoins. Now, we know stablecoins are Circle and Tether. We know they're the top two, but most of you probably never heard of Sky. You've probably never heard of some of the other ones on here. First Digital, you might not have heard of them, but it shows you the growth over time of stablecoins. Now, what the stablecoins do is they allow you to have liquidity in the market. So you probably heard or saw yesterday that somebody was saying that stablecoins are probably going to go to a $5 trillion asset class. That's a 20x from here for stablecoins. I totally agree. As the market matures, you're going to see more use for stablecoins. And stablecoins are going to be used for transactions, not necessarily to buy and sell Bitcoin, but transactions. And they're going to exist on the blockchain. So if Shell Dubai wants to send $10 billion to, I don't know, Shell London, they click a button and it's there. You don't need a bank. You don't need a bank transfer. You don't need a credit card. It's there. It's immediate. Stablecoins also have a certain level of control. So if somebody cocks up, those stablecoins can be frozen forever and new stablecoins issued, just how a bank would work. So stablecoins need that level of control, but you also need to be fully aware that, let's pick a country, let's say Turkey. Turkey tomorrow turns around and says, if you are in Turkey and you have Tether stablecoins, it's against the law and blah, 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 blah. If you hold them in a MetaMask wallet and that MetaMask wallet knows that you're in Turkey, those assets will be frozen. You won't be able to send them anywhere. All you'll be able to do is swap out of them into another stablecoin. So stablecoins have control over it. That Bitcoin is uncensorable. Stablecoins are censorable. Please be aware of that. And it's a good thing that they are in certain instances because of, hackers and things like that. So stablecoin market is broken down here. You've then got the US Treasuries market. Now, this is the one I started talking about maybe a year ago, maybe last July. I think it was about a year ago. I started telling you about Ondo. Now, this is only a $7.5 billion market. This is going to be a $50 or a $100 billion market before you can bat an eyelid. Okay? The market cap of some of these coins, when you go down here, you will see up there, obviously securitized, but then you will see Ondo. Ondo is probably the most famous player in this market. Now, what they do is very simply take US Treasuries and allow you to buy them in Web3 and earn that 4.5% yield, 4.5% yield. This will be highly promoted by the US government because they're buying treasuries debt. So this will be promoted by the American government. This will go to $100 billion in the long term, maybe $200 billion in the long term. So this is a market that you should be looking at as well, because let's say you make $100,000, you've made your gains, you've converted it all to fiat, you've got it in USDC, and you want to go and earn a yield. You can go to Ondo tomorrow and buy USDY, or you can go and buy their OUSD, which is their treasuries token, and earn 4 or 5%. And then you're sitting there earning on your assets. You're not sitting there losing. Inflation isn't eating away. So tokenized treasuries and buying into tokenized treasuries is certainly a massive thing. I've got to be very careful I don't run out of time today, because I have a funny feeling that we are going to look out of time. Now, the big one here is private credit, coming in at 15 billion. So it's, what was treasuries? 7? Crikey, it's slow. 7.5. Right, so private credit is twice as big as tokenized treasuries already. Now, this is the big one. Private credit, what are all of the companies that hold Bitcoin and Ethereum? What are they going to do with it? I'm just going to look at it. I'm going to keep it in the corner over there and look at it and like scratch their ear, drink a cup of coffee, stare at their little ledger wallet that's on the wall over there, pat themselves on the back for buying it. Or are they going to leverage their treasury to borrow and help grow their business? Of course they are. That is where private credit comes in, institutional credit. If they have 500 Bitcoin, they will be able to borrow against that Bitcoin and borrow in dollars to grow their business, and then repay that loan and get their Bitcoin back. And if they don't, they lose the Bitcoin. Okay, that's just how a loan works, but now it's online. And the big player in the market that we talk about an awful lot on there is Maple, coming in 3rd position. It's the 3rd biggest private loan company in the world, and that has come from nowhere. We were talking about them 6 months ago, and they have 7x'd their balance sheet in that time. You look at the pools down here, you will see Syrup USDC is paying 7.3%. How do they generate that revenue to pay you? They use that in the loans, and then they use it as collateral, and then you get paid a percentage of the interest that they get from those loans, and they pay it back to you through Syrup USDC. So yield-bearing stablecoins that have some level of real-world backing. And we're not talking about algorithmic stablecoins here that are backed by Ethereum and Bitcoin, all these kind of things. We're talking about this being backed by physical debt, Bitcoin debt, Ethereum debt. That is why this is going to become a big industry. And they're not on this list once, they're on it several times. But there's other names on there that we've mentioned before. Goldfinch, lots of people don't like Goldfinch, but Goldfinch are on there as well. Pact are on there. There's plenty of others, but this is Maple's forte. And that's why we think that this token, their Syrup token, is likely to go north of $1. $1.01 is my next target for Maple. And then after that, $2 or $3. But again, one of the things to understand about real world assets is technically they are a separate industry to Web3, because they're just leveraging the blockchain to provide seamless, frictionless loans. It's not really tied to Bitcoin. Same as stablecoins, not tied to Bitcoin. Now listen, if Bitcoin collapses, everything goes with it. The liquidity will go out of stablecoins, and that'll be the end of it. I get that. But when it comes to stuff like this, especially with Ethereum and Solana, 2 of the biggest blockchains, this stuff's just going to get bigger. So if you can find a way to get into some real world asset projects, and they don't have to be Ondo, they don't have to be Maple, but go and find somebody that's big enough. We picked one months ago that we bought some of their tokens, and I think it's down about 80%, 70%, but it's a German company with a license, and they have tokenized stocks and gold and everything else, and we think their time will come. Can't remember the name of them off the top of my head, but again, it's high risk. It's high risk because if you pick something too small, it might not get up to the critical mass. If you pick, let's say, Ondo or Syrup tokens, they are clearly going to do 2, 3, 5, 10x's over the next few years. And again, you're in crypto, you want massive gains. We're talking 2 or 3 or 400%. You put $10,000 in, 3 or 4 years' time, you got $50,000. What more do you want? It's an expanding industry, which is why the value of everything in here is going up. It's expanding. And this isn't necessarily new money. This is existing money that's utilizing the blockchain. So when we talk about a $10 trillion, $100 trillion asset class, it's because that already exists and we're just tokenizing it. Back to what Hester Peirce says, they're still assets. It's just that we're moving it from one medium to another. So it's a different industry than crypto. It should be treated as such, but it's too small an industry to be treated as such yet. But it's the big one at the minute. This and AI are going to absolutely dominate, I think. And I think we're going to see an AI ETF within the next 2 or 3 years. We're certainly going to see a real world asset ETF within the next 2 years. They are absolute cast iron certainties. Why would you not have an ETF linked to real world asset tokens? Why would you not have an AI ETF? The issue at the minute is we don't have enough critical mass in AI. It's still a really young industry. Remember where it was two or 3 years ago? Think about where it is today. Think about where it's going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. It's too new. AI and Web3 is too new right now, but it won't be in the near future. What was the name of that project? Which one? Maple. We've got Maple, we've got Ondo, and the one that we bought, I don't really want to give it out because I don't want people to think I'm shilling it. I only bought it because I really love the project. That's it. Right then, what time is it? I don't want to overrun too much today. It's 12:06. Where are we? We're on the BNB, but we're not even anywhere near the finish line. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll end it in a minute. The 30-second quarterly BNB token burn has been completed. Directly on the BNB Smart Chain, they have burnt 1.6 million BNB. 1.6 million BNB has been burnt. I mean, I don't know what 1.6 times $700 is. Is it about $1 billion? They've burnt $1 billion. So again, long term, is BNB something that you should hold on to? Absolutely. BNB, it's never going to do 20, 30x's. It's always going to accumulate in value. People talk about what assets are a store of value, what assets are going to appreciate in value over time. BNB for me is one of them. It will get to $1,000 very, very soon. Maybe in a few years' time, you're going to be looking at a $10,000 BNB. Maybe in 5 or 6 years' time, 10 years' time, you'll have a $10,000 BNB. Maybe. But let's get to $1,000 first. BNB is, I didn't own any of BNB until a couple of years ago. We started streaming on Binance. I bought a couple, and that was it. I was buying them for $200. So it sneaks up on you. It's at $700 now. That's done a 3.5x in a very short space of time. It sneaks up. Anyway, I should probably call it a day because we are super, super late in the stream. And it is a Friday, and I don't want to keep you all too long on a Friday because you should be celebrating. Unlike me, I don't celebrate these kind of things. I did have a meal on Wednesday night to celebrate a partnership that we've got. We've had a lot of, let me just get rid of that so I don't, there we go. We've got a lot of partnerships this month. July has been a kind of breakthrough month for us. You know about the stuff that we've been doing for Orbi Finance, the stuff we've been doing for Corgi AI. We've obviously got Mew that we work with, WolfSwap that we work with, Maple Finance that we work with. They've been good projects to work with. Some short term, Orbi and Corgi AI short term. We've got long term. And we've got a new long term partnership, hopefully a new long term partnership with somebody. So July has been the best month by a 5x for us. And that's without this proper bull run. So we are tired, but but we are going to keep going. I am going to make videos. I know KK in chat was worried that we're going to start streaming poker games or start streaming us playing slots because of BC Game. We're not going to do that. The BC Game partnership is about us making videos for X. That's it. Talking about them on X a little bit, making videos about them on X. Nothing to do with Binance, nothing to do with these streams. These streams are going to stay untouched. What may happen from time to time is I'll have too much work to do. But anyway, a big thank you to everybody in chat. Don't sell BNB in the bull run. I don't know, you know. I know I changed my opinion on Binance, on Bitcoin in January, and I said in January that I've changed my mind and I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. I think we should assess, Tariq. I think we should assess in September where we are, and we should see what's happening to the market, and we should see whether we think the cycle's broken or not, and we should do it in September. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. That is clear. I am still selling everything else as it stands. And the reason is, a personal reason is that I want a big bag of cash to sit on the side for any future bear market, and also to have enough cash to then accelerate the channel. That's what we want to do. We want to accelerate the channel. There's lots of people talking about we do have time. There's lots of people talking about the fact that they're going to stop streaming after this bull run. They're going to make all the money and they're going to leave. I don't really think that's... I think that's really, really poor. I think if you're going to do something like this, it should be something that you do for the good of other people. And when they say things like that, it's clear that they've done it for the good of themselves. So what's going to be interesting is next January or February, if we have a blow off top, is how many of those OG influencers are left. Because it should be, what's the word I'm looking for? When you become a nun or a monk or a priest, you do it for the greater good rather than anything for yourself. And I think that's the way that this should be looked at. You know, I don't make these videos for me. I make these videos for you. And if you like them, subscribe. If you don't like them, don't subscribe. It's no hardship. It's my opinion. Anyway, we still have time, Tariq. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Manjeet. Thank you to everybody that's come in the stream. Have a great day. Let's see if we can get 220,000 today, and then we might have a celebratory party. Oh, we have 2 streams coming up, 2 quizzes. We've got a Wolf Swap quiz and a Mew quiz coming up. So we will see you soon. Thanks, Bullish Bull. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. 118,000 is not the end of our journey. 118,000 is a significant milestone, but if we want alts to go where we want them to go, it's just the beginning. Take care.